Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast. We're here to look at the Springboks' victory over Ireland, their first victory in Dublin in 12 years, where they won 24 points to 13. Now, there is a lot to talk about through this match. There is a lot of controversy. There were 31 penalties. There were 5 cards for Ireland. There's even one for South Africa. There is a lot. There is even a bit of a Rassie controversy if you want to add that in as well. But I'm joined by Shaun. We're going to try to go through everything. Shaun, I mean, I don't think there's been a match like this match between Ireland and South Africa. And we'll talk about it, I think, late in terms of maybe the Boks approach and maybe, the reason why it maybe wasn't a bigger score than it was. But it's just, yeah, it's just quite unique in just all of the stuff and the amount of scrums was a lot. I think there were 20 scrums in the game. There's a lot of stoppages, a lot of penalties. There's obviously a lot of cards. There's a lot of meat off the bone you can take from this game. I mean, look, the Ireland South Africa games have been becoming a rivalry, obviously, the last 6-7 years. And this is, it just adds to that.
Yeah, hi. It lived up to everything, man. It was what a game. I saw a couple guys on socials were like, "Oh, unless you want to analyze the game, there's no point in ever watching it again." I actually enjoyed watching it again a second time, but there was so much. This was very pre-game. I felt that Ireland may have had an inkling that their fortress was under pressure pre-kickoff. I don't think it was so dead set. It looked pretty good for the Springboks in favor of the Springboks leading up to the game. After that first half, I think Ireland definitely realized that the Aviva, the fortress was under pressure. But because of what they knew would potentially happen, there was a lot of niggle and a lot of chirps in that game. There was plenty from early on. The Ireland were very much like, you're not gonna come here, you whippersnapper, and just kind of knock us off our perch. You're gonna have to work for it. So there was a few more. They brought different arts into their game, a little bit more dark arts, a little bit more mind games. Constantly you constantly see whether it was Bundy Arky when he was on the side of the scrum, it was Furlong kept going to the ref. Oh no, no, no! Like they're scrumming skew, and they were looking at the touch judge and just be like, no, no, they're scrumming skew. Like I don't know if the Springboks pulled like an Uno reversi and said, "Cool, we're going to beat you at your game," or if they were trying to get in the play in the officials' heads and stuff. There was so much. I mean. Gibson Park and sure, lost track there, but Ireland, there was just plenty of niggle. It was amazing. There was so much going on. Ireland, I will say one thing that I take my hat off to Ireland. The street dog came out in them. They really were fighting hard. There was a lot of really good scramble defense, but they were really fighting for everything. They were looking for any positive they could get out of the game, whether it was a turnover. And the problem with that is I think we got drawn a little bit away from the focus of where we should be. We were dominant and we were a little bit under pressure in the second half to concede, which we didn't, and that would have obviously changed the game massively. But it was a cracking game, absolutely unbelievable, and a thousand things to talk about.
Yeah. I genuinely don't even know where to start, Shaun. But let's just maybe before all the controversies and everything, I think let's talk about how I guess the Springboks won this game. And it seemed like, kind of like a good military. They controlled the air, they controlled the ground, and they were able to really just impose themselves on whatever Ireland was trying to do. Um, Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stats. I mean, we get our stats from Ultimate Rugby, and there's a lot of good stats about just retained kicks. And for example, all of Damon Willems's kicks were retained, and he kicked, I think, 3 kicks. Gobs had 9 box kicks. Well, 44% of them were retained, so that's 4 out of 9. Sasha's kicks, I think there were 6, and they were, 22% of them retained. So the airwaves were pretty much retained. Obviously, I think for Ireland, there was the consequence of if you drop a ball there, there's a scrum, and then that obviously becomes a problem there as well. We'll talk about the scrum, I'm sure, a lot in the next few minutes as well. Um, it just, I think for that purposes, there wasn't really an in for Ireland, I think, in this game. And I think the Springboks did pretty well with that. I mean, like you mentioned now, there's a lot of credit that can go to Ireland, and we'll definitely talk about that later in terms of their sort of response to the situation. But I think from the Boks side, in terms of approach, it was about a big physical approach, yes, but also just ensuring that there isn't really much that they gained from like the kicking game as well.
Yeah, there were a couple of Reinach's kicks that were a little bit short, but one thing I've also realized is if we miss a kick short, we it still actually is it's a better positive than kicking it too long. Like there's still chance for it to be competed for, stuff like that. On that, Koos Reinach was incredible. Probably one of his top games, and it feels like every week we're like, this is one of his best games. Very interesting. There's two things that I noticed, which I want to say before I forget. So I'm a little go off topic here, but Cobus Reinach was used as a fourth flanker on our defensive scrums. He was that guy hanging there and shooting up and taking Doris down. And the other thing I noticed was Peter Steph the toy, it was almost like we were co-captaining. It was particularly in the beginning of the game. Every single time the ref wanted to chat to Siya, Peter Steptoe was there. It was very interesting because he was captaining towards the end of the game when both Eben and Siya were off. So those are just two things that I wanted to definitely highlight. We managed the airwaves. I thought we did it pretty well. There were, and then we managed the points of contact. Like there were quite a few instances where we made, even if it was a meter over the advantage line, and you've got to add Cobus Reinach into that, who has been so good, but his pass selection has been great. He speaks about how like he's been encouraged, and all the nines have been encouraged to take a couple of steps and make the right decision. When he and Williams take a few steps, everyone tightens up because they're shit scared they're going to leave a gap and he's going to snipe. So it really opens up things for those runners, and our runners are running from good depth, and all of that put together means we generally make the advantage line again. So yeah, it was so good. We we were supremely focused on how we wanted to deal with the Irish in the first 10, 15 minutes of that game. Um, and then it kind of fell off. But the Springboks have done that quite a lot. Like we almost attack with everything in the beginning and then get some points and then kind of settle down. Sometimes we wander off a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but we kind of hit with everything in the beginning, the first 5, 10 minutes, and then drop off a little bit and then settle into a game plan while everyone's like, oh shit, trying to find themselves again. So, yeah, that first try was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was so well taken. I think just the passing from everyone was it just that's I think where you can see the influence of a Tony Brown and where like I think the Boks have evolved in the last few years. It's just that ability to take that opportunity without it being, which I think the Boks were guilty of before, that it felt like, okay, Kobe or Mapimpi would have to do something individualistic to get that try. Now it's the team is all sort of turned on to that and they're able to see the space and they're able to exploit it. And they saw the numbers and the fact that there were players still tied up from the scrum and they had that advantage and they were able to get the ball out wide to Willemse. So I think that's a big improvement in the game. Let's talk the red card, Sean. I think even before that, there's the incident with Sasha, which I think you can sort of both touch on because I think one kind of leads to the other. So James Ryan gets a 20-minute red card for a dangerous clear out to Malcolm Marx. I don't think there's too much argument about the sanction. Yeah, I think it was, at least in my eyes, I think just about dynamic enough that it didn't need a straight red. But I think if it was a straight red, I don't think too many people would complain as well. That I think obviously becomes a big problem for Ireland because that's pretty much now well, that's Ireland's tight head lock gone. They don't have Joe McCarthy, he's injured. They don't have Edwin Adogbo, he's also injured. So the three best tight head locks in Ireland are all not available. The other two were green for South Africa. Snyman and Jean Clay all play in Ireland, but they're obviously available for South Africa. Jean Clay could have played for Ireland, to be fair, but that's another story. Um, I think that obviously, so from also, I haven't watched the game. I think just as full disclosure to people, but from what I've seen and what I've read and like what I've at least watched, it's not like that the Irish scrum was doing well before James Ryan got a red card, no, but at the very least it had a bit of more of a fighting chance. Whereas now you have a scrum that conceded 7 penalties, and I don't think it didn't help that, you had Baird. I mean, Baird played with a broken leg, apparently. That's something that we found out today. And Byrne and then Prendergast basically coming in at lock.
Yeah, listen, that that is a red card. I watched it quite a bit today. I've been scrutinizing it a little bit. That is probably the closest we would have come to a straight red card this tournament, a proper one. Like it was, he's come in, he's Superman over the ruck. He starts doing the corkscrew, the barrel roll in the
Mm.
mid-air and takes someone out. Like that's a straight up red, 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, that's what's happening to him. Like he's going to be banned. Um, interesting. I'm not. This is not a tin hat moment, but he's got something in for Malcolm Marx, man. He was heavily involved in that
Proper.
Malcolm Marx leg break from earlier last year. So just like that's just what happened. Like he was there.
Yeah. Look, I mean,
Um,
to be fair, that's how James Ryan, I mean, Scottish and Welsh fans will be saying that's how James Ryan cleans every week. And that's how he does for Leinster and for Ireland. Like, there has been obviously a lot of accusations about how Leinster and Ireland clean and racks and that it's usually unsafe. And this is one of the rare times that it actually gets pinged.
yeah. So I'm gonna say there has been there's this game was probably if this game was the first game in the season, Sasha gets a yellow card and
Yeah.
James Ryan gets a straight red. Because there's not all we can't say that the last 3 weeks of rescinded red cards and just the shitstorm around those, we can't say that those didn't impact the referee or anything because it's literally all everyone has spoken about. So and then obviously there's that, oh, it was justified because it was rescinded and blah, 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 blah. Those definitely matter. The James Ryan incident is will fit into that category of thuggery, or what's the wording? I think they use the word thuggery or something like that.
Always
Like
illegal.
there's, sorry.
Like, always illegal.
Well, yeah, he's definitely always illegal and he's definitely come in recklessly, but with the intent of doing something.
Mm.
There's no intent there. Like there's not even a rap at the end. He's basically Supermaning his way through. It's horrible. Like and that's, as I said, is going to get a ban. The Sasha incident, which is in no ways the same, is something that um, Sasha's come in and he's gone in for a big hit and he's got it wrong. And there's definitely he's turning in it like, and his arm is tucked or not wrapping. Like that's a yellow and go to the bunker, no doubt about it. Whether they got upgraded or not, I don't know because. So this is my thing: is the ref said they believe that he is attempting to wrap. I didn't see it. Like I don't think there's an attempt to wrap too much there, but they say there's head contact. I don't believe there's direct head contact. Like I do think it's marginal that he hits him a little underneath, like just kind of goes over here
Yeah.
with the head down. So that's why I think there could be a mitigation that it may not have been upgraded if it was a yellow to the bunker. But other thing I want to say is, and not justification, but the way his body's moving, and previously, I can't remember who it was, the way bodies are moving, when there's another person involved in contact, there's that self-preservation brace, which also, I think, comes into play. There's no ways we're going to be able to adjust the law in such a way to incorporate that. You know what I mean? Like, but if there's someone coming at you and he's smoked by someone and all of a sudden the guy moves a half an inch in some way, you tend to brace for yourself as opposed to complete that tackle, especially because Sasha's gone in to that space. He's badly set. And that's also important to know. Like he's badly set. So he's approached that whole thing not not ideally. His whole approach to that was I'm going to hit O'Brien with everything I have to drive him into touch, as opposed to I'm going to make a wrapped tackle. If you understand what I'm saying. Like sometimes there's that wrapped shoulder charge shove into touch. That's what I think was happening. He got it wrong. He got himself set up wrong. There was another player involved. There was self-preservation, not really wrapping. Yeah, definitely a yellow. Definitely. Like there, it's not even a debate in my world. Whether it got upgraded or not is, I think, where the conversation needs to would be
Yeah.
quite interesting because there's almost you could almost justify. You could almost see two of them. It was so close.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, it's so funny because it probably is worse than Mostert's one in actual, like, in some ways. Like,
yes.
you could probably be like, well, if Mostert's one got a raid, this probably also should get a raid then in that case. But yeah, I think then Carly, it's one of those where I get it in a sense for Carly because you also don't want to make that big call that early in the game. I think it's still in the fifth minute that um, incident happened. So you kind of now box yourself though, because now 5 minutes later, the James Ryan thing happens, and
Thank
maybe,
goodness that Ryan incident was so clear cut.
yeah,
Like that is the one thing. But he didn't have to make the call because he sent it to the bunker.
yeah,
But that's well, he did make a call of not straight reading him. Like
yeah. I'm
that was
wondering,
literally in the case in the space. Yeah.
yeah, I'm wondering if that's because, like you said, I think there's more malice, and I know malice is not a standard used in world rugby, and people must stop saying it is. But like we said, we're talking about the always illegal and that sort of standard. There's probably more in the Ryan thing than the Sasha thing. So if Sasha's one was a yellow, even a bunker yellow, and then Ryan's one could have easily been maybe even a straight red. So I think then that's where I get it. Obviously, referees want to manage a game. They don't want games to have like less than 15 players for whatever reason. But obviously, sometimes you have to make a big call. And yeah, I think then it didn't really help things in terms of like the game, and I think just the atmosphere around the game as well. I don't, yeah, I think in hindsight it would have been, yeah, I think it just would have been able to sort of set the standard very quickly with that, and just also help to calm things down. Maybe just be able to talk to the two captains, be like, I know it was obviously a big game, but everyone here needs to calm it down, or we're gonna play 10 versus 10 rugby where I think it kind of not, I mean, obviously the other penalties were more about either scrums or like cynical play. But I think you're talking about like the chippiness. I think that could have maybe been toned down if like Carly sort of came down on the first incidents as hard as possible.
There's another aspect to this which I actually completely forgot to talk about.
Mm.
But after the Sasha hit, Gary Ringrose gets involved.
Yeah, I pushed him.
There is no doubt in my mind that that is a penalty reversal, and there's almost grounds to talk card. Like I'm not over exaggerating.
Mm.
Like if you wanted to calm things down, he could have carded both of those players. But I think by not carding Sasha, perhaps. But Gary Ringrose, firstly, it's retaliation. Apparently, retaliation is not like a problem in rugby anymore because everyone can do it and there's no repercussions. Gary Ringrose, after this tackle, after this barge is completed, is turning to the ref and going, shoulder charge, shoulder charge.
Mm.
And then there's like a half a second, he turns and then he looks at Sasha, who's now stood up, and then he goes for him.
Yeah.
Like, on the Springbok side of this kerfuff, where the collision was, Sasha gets up on the Springbok side, and Ringrose has then walked around and just pushed him. And I'm sorry, but if we're gonna start making sure that there's no more reaction and like having your 2 cents, that's the kind of stuff we need to
Yeah.
stop. Like, it does not, these are separate incidents. I'm not saying you've got to agree with any or disagree with any of those three incidents. They are separate incidents. Sasha was a yellow, Gary Ringrose was a reverse penalty and a stern talking to, and there was a red card with Ryan. Like, that is probably the best way to handle that opening 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a problem though in rugby in general. There's too much chat. Like obviously we now hear ref mics and goodness, I feel so sorry for that for the men and women that have to do this because there's constant commentary you're getting from players. And especially when like obviously a foul play incident happens, there's a lot of bleating and there's a lot of like, you see, whatever, and all that sort of stuff. So
And they want to talk loud to the ref so the TMO picks it up in the mic. I'm certain of that. Like I don't feel that they're talking to the ref to get the ref to ask for it to be checked. I think they're trying to verbalize it so the TMO's like, let me go and have a look while I'm doing whatever I'm doing.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know how we fix that though, because it feels like the genie's out the bottle here. And this is kind of how the game is, and we have the TMO and the bank and that sort of stuff. So it incentivizes you. Yeah, even the ring rose, the shoving thing, like it's kind not that it's incentivized, but as long as even Ringrose is happy to take that penalty in order to bring attention to what Sasha did and the possibility that he gets a yellow. So
If that happened 20, 30 minutes later, there would have been a mass brawl.
yeah,
Like I don't think there would have been punches thrown, but it would have got pretty gnarly quickly.
yeah,
Um, there's so much. I think that's why Marnie was penalized later in the game was for that chirping. Like, so we don't hear every single thing the ref is saying to the players and all that because obviously the commentators are talking. It's not always like perfect world that we get to listen to it. But the ref a number of times spoke about players talking and chirping and everyone calming down. And I think that Marnie penalty was the end of it, where Carley is just like, listen,
yeah,
I'm done with this. Like, we can't have this anymore. And because people didn't hear the conversations before, or I feel that there was something happen and he just had enough and he reversed it and he gave him the penalty, which I had no problem with. I just want to say, like, there's so much of like, oh, the stuff, where's the warning and where's this? Ah, just get over it. Like, the ref gets to make a call. Like, at that time, just kill it off, just figure it out. Like,
yeah. Yeah, let's put a pin on that, Sean, because I think there's even more that can be said about like the attitude of both teams. Scrums, 7 penalties conceded by Ireland. Just a tough day at the office, I think. Fair to say. Look, there's
you're gonna
been
get a pink slip in your locker, tough day.
yeah, I think there is some like stats about like Andrew Porter gets reffed like the roughest by Matt Carley. Like he's probably the one of the most on like Porter's case for the scrumming straight and all that sort of stuff. So if that is true, I haven't really verified it, but if that is true, then Farrell just can't pick it when Matt Carley's playing, or when Matt Carley's the one refereeing. The second thing is obviously we talked about James Ryan and the lack of a tight end lock. So now that depowers your scrum a lot. And I guess there's questions about what Ireland needs to do. But yeah, I mean, the third thing is it's so interesting how the Boks use that. And obviously it comes back to the approach and maybe the Boks wanting to send a message. Like from, I think really obviously very good performances from Fenter, but obviously especially from Thomas Tutoy and getting Porter and like in trouble in the first place and getting the yellow card, to the substitution in injury time of half time, where the Boks, got the yellow card, they want to pretty much force the issue, and then they sub on. I mean, I don't know how demoralizing it must be for a loose head to be like, okay, I've just about survived Thomas Tutoy. Now Volko Low is coming in and he looks like a freaking ball fridge. Like Low and Stiankap come on and at the end of the first half. and you have another 40 minutes of hell to look forward to with them. I mean, yeah, the Springbok scrum has been fantastic. It's been great in most games. I would love to actually look through how many penalties they win every game. 7 is probably on the higher side, but geez, it's getting to a point where I think an opponent would be happy to take 3 penalties against them for the Springbok scrum. So I mean, that's great, but also what in the world do you do if you're Ireland or any side when you're in that kind of position?
There's not a game that goes by that we don't talk about the Rassie genius. And this month has all been about like tactical substitutions, and this game against Ireland is no different. There are two things that happened. Bringing those props on before halftime, I believe that there was a minutes played scenario, perfect world, that was happening. We were 41 minutes into the game, which is 47, 48 minutes of real life time. But there is something, as you say, like as those opposition props are just getting battered and they're like, one more scrum and we go to halftime. One more. That's all we got to do. We got one more, one more, one more. And then they change the faces that they're scrumming against. Like it must have broken them. That must have been the most demoralizing thing because you have had your ass handed to you for 30 minutes straight. 20 minutes, the last 5 minutes, your head's been pushed through your ass. And there's also that like what just happened scenario where these guys are running on like, whoa, what's going on? Like the confusion of it all. Unbelievable decision. And it resulted in the yellow card and a penalty try. Or I can't remember the yellow card came first. Doesn't matter. But what it did was, I believe that move alone, apart from the fact it gave us 7 points, and I'd really like to know why there was no yellow card given to Ireland for that. I believe you don't
That
have
was
to
a
give a
mercy
yellow.
rule.
The
It
what?
was the mercy rule.
Yeah. 100%. A mulligan. But like that moment there broke the Ireland pack, the front row specifically. They did come back, but I really think that the writing was on the wall then. But I also think that Carley, Ireland were playing with 12 men at that time.
Mm.
There's a yellow card sent, and that's another prop. I don't know what the laws around are playing, but I don't think you can play with under 12 players on the field. So, like, there's a
Yeah.
few other logistical issues to that. So it was probably not the right decision, but it was the right decision, if you understand what I'm saying. Like we've seen how many times we've seen the prop yellow carded and then they concede a penalty try with a new prop and he's also yellow carded because
Yeah.
that's what you do. So very interesting call. It should have been a yellow, but I don't know what the repercussions of that are. Like would because that would have essentially have meant the first scrum in the second half, if it was within 10 minutes
Mm.
would have meant Ireland then go down to 10 players because they would have had an uncontested scrum, but would have had to lose another player. So it's probably a really good call by Carley.
For the sake of the
But I
game.
mean, Ireland playing with 10 players for 8 minutes. Whoo.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, and it just so happened that the red card for Ryan sort of came or was finished at that time. So Prendergast was able to come on just when it could have been even 11 players just on the basis of that. Because Prendergast got a yellow card for um, cynical play. I think it was offsides. Funny enough, that's when Ireland scores straight after that, which is quite remarkable. Then Jack Crowley gets a yellow card. Bit stupid from Jack Crowley, unfortunately. Just not stupid, but like just got himself in the wrong position. I think he was trying to clean out more than he was trying to tap the ball down. But yeah,
It's
obviously.
hard for us backs, man. It's hard.
What are you doing in Iraq? That's question number one. Then yeah, Porter gets yellow carded. I mean, I think the ref was just like, look, it's not going to be good for the game. I think, yeah, maybe Ireland would have taken 11 men and no scrums for the next 10 minutes, actually. So that just, yeah, that then rounds up that first half. And I mean, yeah, the Boks are 19-7 ahead. there's been three yellow cards, there's been a red card, like Cheese Islands are in the wars. So why is this final score then only 24-13?
Oh, it's the part of this game that upset me the most
Mm.
is so Ireland outscored us in the second half. 6-5, was it?
6-5, yeah.
6-5. Like that is, and that's testament to them. Like the street dog, they really went street dog, and they fought for everything. We were probably guilty of being a little bit loose, but that would have also been the Irish plan. That street dog plan would have also been just like bring everyone into the niggle. There was a time just when Reinach knocked on, and it was the Crowley yellow card, I think.
Yeah.
Just before the scrum, before they went to go and check it and give the yellow card and the penalty, Gibson Park walks past Reinach and then like fakes the pass into his gut kind of thing. Like it was just niggle and spice and just crap all the time. And yeah, Ireland did so well in that second half to hang on. I also feel that the 10 minutes, the halftime came at the best time for them then. I think also for the officials to calm down. I think for the Springboks to be like, cool, this is what we need to do. But then Ireland came out with a very good scramble plan. They scrambled on defense so well. A lot of people are like, yeah, why is Prendergast starting and Crowley not starting? Look at all the stuff he did, and everything they showed that Crowley did was what he did at 15. Like, hello. So yeah, Crowley's got a bit of gas on him. I was quite impressed with that. Yeah, they scrambled well. There were a couple moments that they got really like lucky with the bounce of the ball or with the missed tackle or someone overcommitting, and we got unlucky. But then we also got lucky with things and actually really have ourselves to blame for not scoring at least two tries, at least. If we score another try in that opening 10, 15 minutes of that second half, the game really gets away from Ireland. But they hung on and they were cheering everything because everything mattered. Bundy Aki was in everyone's face. Gibson Park was in faces. There was no doubt all sorts of dark arts happening. Like it was a bit of an arm wrestle. They knew that, like they were in the game, but they knew that the writing was on the wall and that they would have to get very lucky to get it score and then fight back.
Yeah.
I think if they'd got it a try within like the first, maybe like the after 10 minutes of the like in the first half an hour, if they got to try and really pulled a little bit closer, I think the Springboks would have really changed their game plan a lot more, tightened up, and then really started that sort of steamroller going again. It was just too loose. We were far enough away that we could be a little bit loose and play outside of where we should have. But it was a cracking game. Like there's no doubt about it. There's so much to come from this, though.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess maybe a part of it is, if you have this big focus on scrumming, and clearly the Springboks were trying to essentially break the Irish scrum, that probably takes away your legs for everything else. So I'm just looking at carry stats from the game. Visa had the most carries with 9. Now, obviously, games are different, but like in the France game, he had 18 carries. So, it just shows like the Boks maybe didn't have enough opportunity with the ball in attack than they have in other games. So it's Visa 9, Du Toit 8, Dialendi 8, Willems is 7, obviously he's a fullback, so he's obviously carrying the ball back from the backfield. Then at 6, it's Nokia, Creel, Moody, and Kwagga. And then people have 4 from there. So I think it just shows that the approach of the game is a lot different to what it has been before. Even Sasha's approach. Sasha usually has as many carries as passes. Like that's probably something you could actually criticize him on. He had 10 kicks, 8 passes, 4 carries, which is, probably more of a 100 Pollard type game than a Sasha Feinberg Zulu game. So it does seem like the approach of the Boks was, really focused on, the set piece, really focused on the rolling ball and really trying to key down on that. And I think, yeah, I mean, sure, it kind of felt like it was almost to their detriment. I mean, I guess the game was still won, like you said, it didn't really matter at the end. I mean, and this kind of goes into the question about the feeling around the game. Like, I think something that struck me watching like highlights and stuff like that is felt like after every time the whistle was blown, there was some level of chirp or argy-bargy or pushing and shoving, like you've said. After both Willemse and Sasha's tries, both of them were shushing the crowd. And
Yeah.
yeah, which is a bit strange because I'm just like, it seems like from, when you can hear that the crowd's at least, what, 20-30% South African. So I'm just like, who are you shushing in a sense? And obviously there's the whole Rassie Rasmus, him sort of giving the thumbs up at the end of the game situation as well. So I think it's quite clear that the Boks were also really wound up. Ireland was obviously, coming in with feeling in this game. Like you said, maybe trying to just defend their home ground and, all the sort of historic games that have happened between the two sides. Yeah, but I guess it's a credit to the Boks that they can still motivate themselves in a big game like this after so many years, so many achievements, and obviously there was something to get here. But I'm just wondering, like, why they were this wound up. Like this
Yeah.
felt like very exceptional. Like I don't think they were this wound up in Paris. I don't think they were this wound up in Eden Park. Like what in the world did Ireland do to make the Boks so mad? Does Rassie maybe think Matt Williams is Irish?
Oh, could be, could be. World Rugby headquarters are in Dublin. There's this. Um, it was very personal.
Yeah.
You're right. There was a lot of emotion. There was a lot happening. Like, I think Rassie probably just kept showing them like this was our trajectory and how we were doing, and then Ireland beat us, and this is what we're doing, and then Ireland beat us, and there was all that spice, and we've never done it. This is our like our crest for now. Like we have to beat Ireland in Dublin, and it was personal. There was a whole bunch of shit going on all the time. It was pretty mad, but the crowd were heavily involved. They were upset that Ryan got a red card. And I think that was just because Sasha didn't get a card. So it was just like it was nonstop. Like that and all of that, like when you take a step back and have a look at that and realize how much happened in that game and how dominant South Africa were at scrum time, how Ireland fought back and how the niggle was and all that sort of stuff. You look back and the referee was phenomenal. Like he had a pretty good game.
Yeah. I mean, just I think yeah, like it's not a game you want. It's kind of like that France South Africa game from the World Cup where I think if you're in the referee's camp, you're kind of trying to sell that game off to someone else and just be like, hey, Carl, do you want this game? Like, I'd rather take Wales, Australia, or whatever the case is. So, yeah, I think Carly and just ensuring that the pot didn't go over the boil did a lot there. Yeah, but geez, I mean, 31 penalties though, Sean. 20 scrums. Like, I mean, yeah, we're South African, we love a scrum, but it's also like this is a lot. Like there is, I guess, that point where there's a bit of diminishing returns into like maybe, I mean, I'm not saying a game could only be quality if there's like carrying and running and passing, but you also just like, you kind of also want that as well. And I guess that kind of goes to the Bok approach. Do you think this was more about the Boks embarrassing Ireland than it was about the result? Like, I think even in Siya's like press conference, he was talking more about the scrums than the actual general game. And I guess it's a weird one where do the Boks then feel, I guess maybe job was done, they really did sort of send a message, but do they feel like, you know, that's cool, and obviously we put them under a lot of pressure, but this should have been like, like what New Zealand did to the Springboks 2017 when they beat us 50-0, or the Springboks have been doing to New Zealand the last few years when they get like these big historic scores against them. Like there's one thing obviously in how the game goes, but I think there's another thing when you send a message on the scoreboard to go, look, we got 40 points in your home, we got 50 points in your home, we were able to really sort of run up the score against you. And that's where I'm just like, I get it in a way, and I get you trying to sort of bully them, and you've sent a message, and I think, yeah, I would like to, I think after this, talk about what the hell does Farrell do now next time they face the Boks. But you also just like, hey man, there's only so few opportunities I think you get against teams of this quality to really put the boot in. I kind of wish this was, I would have taken two less yellow cards if the score was 40 points to 13.
Yeah. I do feel that the Springboks really went out to embarrass is the not the right word
Yeah.
because it like got a bit of a bad connotation to as to why they'd want to, but I really feel like they wanted to go out and dominate that game, be ruthless, just really show Ireland that they've actually are nowhere near the best. They're not where they used to be, and we are way better. But it got away from us. Like I think in that process of us wanting to dominate them, we let them back in the game
Mm.
because was easy for us. I think it would have been easier for us to stick to our game plan and be boring and just really just wear them down more. They're a good side, and they showed by the tries they scored. They showed by how they stayed in the game and how they fought back. And with 5 minutes left in the game, there was a chance that they could, be in with a shot of winning it.
Mm.
And and that's huge. Like that's what Ireland are going to take out of it. And you don't want that. You don't want them to take anything positive. You want them to really hunt for some positives. You want them to know that they were beaten good and proper. Where the truth is, if you look back at the full game, you'd be like, we were beaten in the first half, but the second half we came back.
Mm.
And you probably want to just you just want to you want to ego them. Like you want
Yeah.
to the Springboks are in a very interesting space. Like since Rassie took over in 2018, it's always been about us being the underdog, about everyone hating us. It's about, oh, look at this, they hate Villy. This is not good enough. The kicking game's crap. We're boring. We shouldn't be there. What about the people at home? This is not for us. Pressure's a privilege.
Yeah. Sean, I think the one thing I want to say to what you said is I think the first thing is the probably the only game where the Boks can claim some sort of narrative card is the Henry Pollock game when they face England. Because, yeah, obviously England now is hyping themselves up as sort of the new pretenders to the throne after their like 11 match unbeaten streak. The second thing is, I think this game also reminds me a lot of the Ireland South Africa game in Pretoria last year, where the Springboks were out of this world fantastic. They were really good for about 40, 45 minutes. And it did feel like in the middle of the game that this could be like a 40, 50 point win. And then Ireland just found a way to get themselves back into the game. And I mean, it was a bit tight at the end, and the Springboks came away with the win. And then the next week, obviously, we know what happened with Ken Frawley and him getting the drop goal. So I think that is the kind of the disadvantage of the approach of the Boks is you just a world-class side like this, it's so easy for like, okay, let me say this. The Boks are clearly the best team in the world, and I think they're the best team in the world by a margin over New Zealand, Ireland, France, and England. But I think there's enough in those four teams, especially where they feel like if they have a 9 out of 10 game, unless the Boks bring their own 9 out of 10 game, they feel like they can beat the Boks. Like they know that their best is good enough to beat the Boks. Whereas with maybe Australia and below, they need to be 10 out of 10 and the Boks to be 5 out of 10. So I also am just like, I don't know if you want to give Ireland or France or whoever just enough on meat on the bone to believe like we can still turn this game around. We can still do this. We can withstand, not having a scrum and playing with 6 men or whatever the case was, and still be able to put the Boks under pressure. That's where I'm like, I wish they were ruthless more on the scoreboard than, almost trying to embarrass them, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, the that is definitely a working like we just it's weird, but it's like not really in our DNA. Like we
Yeah.
don't have that history of going and just embarrassing sides because they didn't pitch up that day. The best part about it is it's something that we can work on.
Mm.
And on the England thing. I agree with you totally on France, Ireland, New Zealand, and England that they can play 9 out of 10 and still be in with a shot with 10 minutes to go. Like I think that's kind of the thing that we need to be worried about because we don't want that to fall on their side. Um, and then they go on and win it in like a key matchup. But I know all this talk is going to be about the Springboks in England next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if we name, we have a semi-experimental game plan with a semi-experimental side or something like that. Like, I feel that Rassie may be happy to let England just carry on. Like, and next year is going to be like people might be talking about the Springboks hitting a slump before the World Cup, or I don't know. Like, I don't see us going full, full hog next year
Mm.
for some key games. We might let England believe that they're the best and then maybe confront them in the World Cup. It's risky either way. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe England don't go their best when they come to us in June,
Yeah, I
July, whenever.
mean, I think next year's approach could be so interesting. I mean, there's
Yeah.
two things to go for next year. There's obviously the New Zealand series and now the Nations Championship. And I really do, I mean, I think this is a question for all the sides, but I really do wonder how the Boks go about it because I can't see how much more they can improve on how they're playing right now. Like, it's genuinely, I don't think there's much more you can get from like this sort of this configuration of the side, you know.
Now we just bolster those other players. Like now
Yeah,
we just bring in like Hooker and Moody to like bring their level of our game plan to where it needs to be, or vice versa, or
yeah,
change guys around. Like that's where, like when we go to the last World Cup, we got 33 players. 39 of them were scrum halves, but we've got like two realistic 15s that we can roll out, maybe three that would be competitive in three different game plans. Like
yeah,
we are, maybe he just goes, cool, like let's just give everyone the same amount of minutes so they're all on the same level. And
yeah. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, it's so hard to be this good for many years. I mean, that's why I think this year's been exceptional for the Boks, where it's just really difficult to do this year after year after year after year. Like, only literally probably there's only one men's side at the very least that's been able to do this. Okay, the Red Roses are just another story altogether. They're just ridiculous. But yeah, I would. I mean, that's a conversation for another day. But I would love to try to get into Rassi's mind as to what and how do you approach sort of going about it for 2025. Okay, let's just finish like empty the notebooks. I know Sean, you had a few points to make. I think my main sort of takeaway, at least from an Irish side, and then you can do that and talk about Springbok stuff as well, is Edwin Adogbo becomes a very important player right now for Ireland. Like, he needs to be fit. He needs to be playing almost every week for Munster. He needs to be starting that first Six Nations game against France. It's Ireland needs to get to their big bastard lock era. Like, they need him coming off the bench for Joe McCarthy. Like, they need to be playing as many of the big boys as possible. It might mean that they need to reconfigure their loose forwards, maybe play more of a jump at seven, then Van der Fleer, make Van der Fleer more of an impact player. I don't know. But if they're going to face France and South Africa, especially, and even England to an extent, they need to be able to match the power game. And France obviously did something similar to what the Springboks did earlier this year to them. They need to find a way to sort of counter this. The second thing would be, I think Furlong and Porter need to be reserve props now, right? Their time is done. McCarthy actually looks really good. I mean, he also conceded a ton of penalties, but I think around the field, he's also just giving a really good impact. So, it's great if you can throw on Porter and Furlong at the end of the game in, next year or at the World Cup, where the case is. Like, that's a good position to be in. So I think the Ireland, I would want maybe for their team to look something along the lines of have Paddy McCarthy there, have Tom Clarkson starting, have McCarthy and Byrne obviously at the lock with the dog ball off the bench. Maybe,
Paul
yeah,
Makizachukwu still in the mix there.
yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, I mean, he's in the sort of the rotation there. And then I think 7 might be interesting is,
And then you've got, so I'm sorry, you've also got Joe McCarthy who's going to come back.
yes, yeah. So he would start, Joe would start, and then the Dogbo coming off the bench. And then if you do have like a Dogbo at lock, I don't think he jumps much, like a Meoff or a Skelton. So I wonder if then is Truku or Aaron also become on the bench, and then you can kind of finish with Bed, Aaron, Doris as your loose trio, and say to Bed, look, get a bit lighter and be able to play 80 minutes and be able to run around like crazy, like kind of like what Josh does. You, you need to sort of configure the things a bit differently just to find that balance against the big sides, because the sort of the fancy schmancy way how Ireland plays, it's really effective, it's really good, and I think you can still keep a lot of that. But when a team can just punch you in the face constantly, you need to be able to defend yourself a bit.
Yeah, it's going to change things because I think I like what you're saying and I totally get it. But I do, in that setup, it seems like a Jack Conan misses out. And I
Mm,
feel that he's quite important. Um, Whether he starts and Doris rests the game or he comes on and Doris moves to the side, which I'm still not convinced of yet.
mm,
Like they've got guys, they almost need two horses for courses it. But potentially they need to look at those other guys bringing a different style, different game plan,
mm.
because the Irish game plan has been pretty much the same. And I think that's why they got punched in the face the way they did, because we knew what was coming.
Yeah,
Like everyone knows what's coming with Ireland. We've been saying it forever, since 2023, since 2022.
yeah,
Like you know what's coming. It's just going to be the same old, just the same guys coming around the corner doing the same stuff, and they're going to just wear you down, and then they're going to send it to the backs. And the try they scored with 14 players, like it works, but as a whole, it's not starting to be as effective. Like,
yeah,
are they going to go potentially 7-1? Probably not the best shot for them.
mm,
I think that 7-1 may have come and gone very quickly. Um, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen and how they're going to balance it out. One thing for sure is they do need to make some changes, bring some new blood, some new people in and check it out, like
mm,
figure out what's going on. Um, I thought like I thought that we really wrapped up their midfield well. I thought Bandiaki wasn't terrible. Like he didn't have a lot to work with, but he was the best in that circumstance because they literally needed a hammer. Like they needed someone to just like brute force his way through stuff, play on the side of the scrum. We wrapped up Ringrose well. Ringrose put in one big tackle, but Ringrose currently, Bundy, Archie, Gary Ringrose is definitely not their first choice midfield. But we kind of knew that going into this game. I did expect a bit more. Having said that, I really thought that Derlendi and Creel were superb. And it'll go unseen. Like there's a lot of unseen stuff there, but they were great. Like I think they missed two tackles between the two of them the whole game, wrapped up everything. Creel coming in and stopping stuff, shadowing people inside, I thought was really good. Yeah, it was good. Ryan Baird's a big loss. There's talk of him missing the Six Nations. That's huge for them. What it does do is it opens up that door for Ireland to do something different.
yeah,
Um, is Farrell capable of a different game plan? He must be. Like he took the Lions with a different game plan. Like he must have something else. Yeah, a different game plan-ish. Same game plan, but with more vibes. But
yeah,
like Ireland have got those players. Do they have enough time? Is probably the big question.
yeah.
Is he going to carry on hammering with the same old, and then square peg, round hole players to fit that game plan and roll that out in 2027?
Yeah, I think the basis of it is fine. It's just you just need to find a counter to sort of the big boy sort of play. Like I think it's easier to teach Edwin Adogbo to do a few backdoor passes than it is to try and now be a bit more of a conservative or whatever the case may be, whatever you think the game plan needs to be. Like I think the kicking game is not too bad. there's so many swings and roundabouts though as well, because I'm like someone like James Lowe, you need him for that kicking game. Like he's got a special left boot. But are you getting as much from it on the kick chase than you could maybe from someone else? I don't know. Um, does that mean Jamie Osborne needs to come into play? Like, do we now see how valuable someone like Hugo Keenan is? Like that he's able to like man the backfield and is able to be that sort of classy player that just does all that he needs to do at the back of the field there. Like, O'Brien, I think, Tommy O'Brien, like this was probably a game where it just showed like, oh, he's still a bit wet behind the ears for big boy rugby. Just he was getting a bit ragdolled at times there. So it's just you need like some of these players, you need to sort of get them through a few of these games, and then they'll be ready when, like 2027 comes. So that's the thing I think for Farrell is I don't think the game plan as general needs to change too much. I think you do need to. I do think you need to add some variety to it. You're right about that, but you definitely need to. I think personnel, this 23 or this structure of the 23 is just not going to do it against France and South Africa right now. Like they feel very comfortable, and maybe even to an extent, New Zealand feel comfortable playing Ireland now. And this, yeah, like it's interesting. Maybe this is where Rassie was right with regards to changing up his whole coaching staff for this World Cup. It's just showing a new picture. Like France is kind of doing the same thing. There are a few teething problems, but they changed up their coaching staff. Ireland kind of did, but kind of didn't because Goodman and Blindal, or I mean Goodman and yeah, who's the attacking coach now? But they kind of are from the same school from Leinster. So yeah, it's weird. Like I don't know if we can obviously solve all the problems that Ireland have in this one podcast.
The
Surely,
thing is,
yeah.
like, it's kind of incestual.
Mm.
I mean, I'm speaking out of turn here because I don't know the real dynamics of everything, but everything is Leinster and Ireland,
Yeah.
like 99%. Like the coaches, over how many years have the coaches progressed from Leinster through to Ireland? The players are doing it too. Like there's been for many years, Ulster, Munster, Connacht have just been like, you guys have got everyone, farm them out. They only farm out the guys that are absolutely not making it. They hold on to everyone else.
Yeah.
Like they need to potentially farm out more players, farm out, like they need to send them to other provinces so they can actually play more. And then they need to start selecting other players. Like that is the thing. Is it's very much you're right in that there's very much of like different face, same vibes, like
Mhm.
with so much of what they're doing. And it worked for so long. You feel like, are they going to hold on to it for another year? Surely not. Like, surely they do look at some other important tweaks. Like, keep the foundation, but let's work on other stuff. Yeah. Because, listen, they got manhandled by the Springboks and by the All Blacks. Like, they took two big losses and
And France earlier.
and France. Those are their rivals. Like they got embarrassed by South Africa, even though there was a good comeback. And the game against the All Blacks, they got pumped. Not great. Really not great. So
Yeah.
they've got next year to fix it. Um, and then you've got the start of 2027 to fine tune. And then that's it.
Yeah. Okay. I know you had a moody take, and I know you had a Nokia take.
Ron Nokia, that guy, he must be the most amazing guy, like as an individual, because he gets kicked to the curb every year. He gets demoted down the ranks, and every year they're like, "Listen, we're sorry, we need you. Can you come back and help us?" And then he comes and cooks, and everyone's like, "Whoa, hang on a second. He's got to be first choice." What? Yeah, another comeback. I mean, if you go listen to our podcast from last year, we said exactly the same thing about how this guy's come back from nowhere and he's become our most important player. Yeah, unbelievable. Our lineouts were a little bit shaky. Like we didn't have the best lineouts, but we had good lineouts. We were better. Our mauls were pretty good. Ken Moody, I am gonna say that him and Cheslin Kolbe are our first choice wingers. So Ken Moody, I personally believe is leapfrogged Kurtley Arendse. And I almost think that Hooker is the next conversation. Kurtley Arendse is brilliant and he's been struggling with a few injuries, but Moody's form currently on the wing is something to behold. He's brilliant. This is the form he was in when he first got selected. I was really worried about him after that injury because it took him a while to come back. But my word, he's this November, he's been ridiculous. I would start him ahead of Kurtley Arendse now without a shadow of a doubt. So he's brilliant. We also get to plug a whole bunch of gaps with him there in terms of like cover and all that as well. It's quite something. Yeah, I think Ches and Colby and Ken and Moody are our wingers right now. It's weird because I'd look then and go, surely we've got to have Hooker there. And then obviously there's the Kurtley Arendse conversation. We're a little bit spoiled at the moment.
Yeah. And the thing is with Moody, and he was able to do this, I think he had also was tied for top dominant tackles of two. He's able to make that read coming off his wing and just smoking someone. I think there was a few times where Ireland did have the ball in attack and they were trying to launch one of those plays we've seen now for about 8 years where they get like just off the pivot and the people running through and the running lines and now there's 40 people coming at you. And Moody just shut it off. Like he made the right read where I think there was a screen of forwards coming through from Prendergast and there was, I guess, Hansen or whoever coming at the back, and he just read it perfectly, went through the screen of forwards and tackled Hansen with ball and all. Like he's obviously just gotten so much better from that, from playing 13 and 14 the whole time. Like that skill is improving a lot. We still have our both of us have our reservations about Moody as a 13 and his passing and distribution game aspect of it, but it's made him a much better winger. That's definitely for sure. Like this has
100%.
definitely sort of strengthened him. Yeah, I mean, we can get to this when we talk URC maybe later in the week, but there's going to be a bit of a debate between Johan Ackerman and Jake White, Johan Ackerman and Rassie Erasmus about this. Sean, you made a point that maybe it's going to be a bit easier to convince Johan Ackerman to follow Rassie's plan than it was Jake White.
Not a doubt in my mind. I think if Rassie had to ask Jake White to please play players in a certain position, he would get told to go jump. I'm pretty sure he did. I think he's got more chance if he asks Ackerman. Ackerman would be like, you know what, let's have a look at how we can do things. I think that's how the conversation will go. Just on that, I agree totally. Like Moody, so his spot tackles and those read and shoots from the wing, you've got a little bit more wiggle room for an error out there than you do at 13. It's the recovery from that space at 13 that's the issue, and it's the non-shooting defensive pieces, those little short steps and sort of watches and shifts that I'm a bit concerned about,
Mm.
which needs to be worked on. But the more he plays 13, the better it helps his winger defense, ironically, but obviously helps that other one. And the more he plays on the wing, it will help him make those other decisions better too. So like I know it sounded like I was against it. I'm not against him moving to 13. Like I want to see him distribute a little bit more at 13, but I also there are micro moments that are lacking and they will come with time. Like I have no problem with the move, but if we are playing three knockout games in a row now, I wouldn't be in favor of having him start any of them at 13.
Yeah.
Right now, like come next year. I think this weekend he probably gets a chance. I'm not sure if he's allowed, but
Yeah,
next year
this
he will get quite a few chances at 13, I believe.
yeah, it seems like this weekend's team is going to be in all sorts. I don't know. I guess there might have been a negotiation because it sounded like from the press release today that the Japanese players aren't playing.
I thought the
Um,
whole thing was for them to play, or was that in the
yeah.
beginning?
I think in the beginning they did announce that they'll be available for the Japan and the Wales game, but I think they were like, actually, can they come back, please?
So
And
no URC, overseas URC players, no Premiership players, no Japanese players.
yeah, I don't think we have any top 14 players anymore, but no top 14, obviously, in theory as well. So it seems like I think Rassie's kind of doing on a case by case basis. So I guess if he needs a Japanese player, like probably someone like Malcolm Marx, okay, but to be fair, Bogi Monambi was just called up for the Sharks, so I assume he'll probably be playing this game. But if he needs maybe I think there is some leeway. It sounds like he can maybe make some exceptions to the rule and call up certain players. Maybe a visa where they don't have any other players, he might call up for this game. And then I think with the URC teams, it seemed like I don't know if it's like an allocation or a key player thing, but it's like okay, if the Sharks don't have cover at lock then Itzebeth has to go back. But if the Sharks are happy that they have enough for this weekend without Itzebeth, then Itzebeth can play. So I guess we'll probably hear tomorrow what the squad is, because I think he said they'll only be able to practice 25 players. It's just quite wild. But at least both the Stormers and the Sharks are in Europe. So, I mean, yeah, even for the Bok players that are thinking they'll have a week at home, they're going to have to do what the Bulls did last year when those Bulls Boks were like overseas for like 2, 3 months, it felt like.
Yeah. Actually, I have no idea who and how we're going to roll out a team. I don't know the parameters or what's going on. I'm assuming we're going to be very South African URC heavy.
Yeah. But also probably we can't have 10 players from the Sharks. So I have to be like, okay, seven from the Sharks, seven from the Bulls. Maybe, yeah, maybe a line or two get pulled up here as well. So
Well, I'm a little worried for the Lions in the URC now. I don't know who they're playing, but all of a
we play the
sudden they're going to
Bulls.
miss five players. They're playing the Bulls.
Yeah.
Akers is like, I will do whatever you want with Moody at 13. Take all the Lions players this week. Thank you very much.
That's one tactic. Yeah. So it's Bulls Lions this weekend. The Sharks are away at Connacht and the Stormers are away at Munster. Good luck.
The Sharks at Connacht
Yeah.
needs to release every single Springbok and they have to start against Connacht. We want Ireland versus South Africa 2.0.
Yeah. I mean, it's two Ireland versus Africa games because it's Munster Stormers as well. So I think the crowds there'll be a bit of feeling, especially if like a Sasha plays there after like what happened on Saturday as well.
Reinach Sasha 9-10 for the Stormers.
Yeah. Maybe for their own safety, they should be playing in Cardiff. Sean, I think the final thing from a Bok perspective is, yeah, there's a fourth Springbok with the World Player of the Year award, and it's Malcolm Marx. I mean, we literally said last week we thought he'd be the one with the least chance to win it, but he's won it nonetheless. Um, 11 tests this year, 4 tries. Like obviously the most, or at least the second most important player in the team. Has been probably the one of at least either the best or maybe the second best hooker in world rugby for at least a decade now. Like I said, this is kind of like in the Oscars when Leonardo DiCaprio finally got an Oscar, I think, for The Revenant, which was probably not his best movie, but they're just like, look, you almost deserve it as a lifetime achievement award. So it does not that maybe Marx was the best this year, but it does feel right that Malcolm Marx does have a World Player of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah, very it's very weird. Like such a weird one to like I don't there are very few people that thought Marx was in the running.
Hmm.
Everyone was like Ox, Peter Steph Toy, and then obviously Bill Bierre, he's great. Him not going to New Zealand this year probably hurt him. But in that window, Marx wasn't like he was now in November, in that window
Hmm.
which was up until November. So yeah,
Hmm.
but he won it. We don't get to hear about how World Rugby hate South Africa and the Springboks if they gave it to Bill Barret. Oh, it was but yeah, and everyone loved it. Listen, there's no doubt about it. The man gives it his all the time. Like he's an absolute beast. He's been a machine. This November in particular, he has been hitting the form that we're used to seeing from back in the day. So yeah, what an unbelievable result.
Yeah, it kind of feels
Poor
like
Ox. Justice for Ox.
justice for Ox, but it does feel like they actually, even though they said they're not taking November into account, it feels like they definitely took November into account because Marx has been fantastic this November. He's been
And
definitely,
Ox hasn't played, and that's why Malcolm got it.
yeah. Again, I don't think this, they need to make it clear. Like they need to, I think they also need to announce the nominations at the start of November. They can't, because now people also get confused because they're like, well, like for example, LBB had a great game against Australia. Like, okay, why doesn't that count? And Malcolm Marx was man of the match and then also happened to be World Player of the Year. So it kind of feels like that counted. So now it's just weird, man. So I, yeah, I kind of think it's a lot of recency bias because, Sean, remember when we didn't have a line out for a good chunk of the year, when we were just like, what has happened to our line out? Marks can't throw, people are bumping into each other, we don't have a rolling ball. Like, there was at least 3, 4 tests when we were doing that.
We were hunting another hooker. Listen, Bongi Benambi was our first choice hooker last year.
Mm.
Like it wasn't a case of 40 minutes, 40 minutes. It was Bongi played and then Malcolm came on to finish the game. Like that was as recent, that was in this window. And we
Mm.
didn't have a line out and there was a lot going on. Like,
Yeah. So it's weird. I still don't think it's necessarily the right decision, but I'm happy that Malcolm Marx does have one. But yes, justice for Ox. Like yeah, I mean, I feel like even with the women's game, we're probably the closest we could ever be to to a proper winning World Player of the Year with Bottomman. But yeah, like World Rugby just doesn't want to pull the trigger. To be fair, Sophie de Goody was fantastic, so you can kind of understand that one. But give the props an award, please, World Rugby. We need it. Even Angus Bell, maybe give him World try of the year for his try
yeah.
films.
But that'll be awarded next November, and everyone would have forgotten about this, and it wouldn't matter because Oxford scored 30. Oh,
Yeah, we have a few problems. Sean, I think that is everything. Like, yeah, there's so much.
Erg here 50. Congrats.
Yeah,
Against your club side is even better.
I, what do you, I don't even know how conversations go in the club this week after obviously all the tenseness of this game. Like, is does Ake like sort of keep at the back? I mean, he's pretty noticeable.
No. No. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Ryan Baird, was trying to get up from something and Ake just pushed him back down to the ground and trotted off. I was like, oh, I love the spice. Love it. Must be
Yeah,
beautiful, man. Must be good to go there. Like he probably got a lift home with one of the Irish lads after the game anyway.
bad news for Ake is obviously Ryan's probably gonna be banned for a few weeks. Baird is injured. McCarthy, I think, is still a week or two away. So Ake is about to be playing 80 minutes every week for the next few weeks.
You know it.
That's his punishment. But yeah, I mean, we did kind of talk about it last week, but yeah, obviously just a unique lock. It's great that he's gotten to 50. Like, I was also just remembering how much of a phenom he was in high school rugby for Afis. Like, he was, every 2, 3 years, we have that player that's been talked about as like the next big thing when you see him like in schoolboy rugby. Like, see it with like someone like Sasha, even Kolisi, Nick Costa, rest in peace as well. Like those sort of players that everyone's talking about throughout the country as guys, you need to see this player. So I remember with Snyman, that was the case, and you could see a lot of this ball skill and just uniqueness going through him. And yeah, he's delivered on the hype and even more so. Like he's just genuinely been like the best, yeah, one of the best like impact players I think Lord Rugby has seen. Like his ability to come off the bench and to change a game has been noticeable. Like him and Kwagga are almost like a double act. And he's really been important for the Boks in terms of getting where they are right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's changed things up a little bit. Like So firstly, I think his scrummaging has got really good. That is the one thing, and his lineouts have tightened up a little bit. So he's kind of like plugging a few holes there. But then there's that whole ball in hand aspect, which changes everything. It's a game changer for us. We've had to change our game plan and how we approach things as well, which is lovely. I do like seeing the evolution.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still don't know how he got to 50. It's such a weird thing. Like he seems like a 22er, like a you know what I mean? Like he's picked up a lot of like almost everything's been off the bench, but at 50, I was like, it's so crazy, man. I'm so stoked for him. And listen, he seems like a glue guy in the squad. Like
Mm.
he's always there. He's taking the piss out of the little guys. He's getting the piss taken out of him. Like it looks like him and Cheslin Kolbe are best mates because there's always banter. It's flippin' awesome. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's also, we need, I don't know, we need like a Cooks or someone to do a podcast, maybe when things get quiet, like in December and Jan, where we break down like the friend groups in the box, because it feels like Snyman's usually the third wheel when Kolisi and Itzebeth hang out together. Like him and Kolbe are kind of competing for that spot.
And they're gonna then form their own group and try and overtake it and overthrow it. Ah, I'm in. I'm in. I
Yeah,
would watch that. I would watch that all day.
yeah, we need to find out. I'm sure there's like, these people are friends with these people, but actually not friends with well, not like not friends, like I don't start drama, but like, yeah, little sort of groups here and there. Because I think, at the ATP final last week in like when Sinner beat Alcaraz, so they're obviously tight. So I just wonder, Khalees will say Etzebeth is number one. I wonder who's number two on the friend ranking list. That's what we need to find out from our captain.
Ah, I think what we need is we need one of the coaches to tell us the truth because no one's gonna want to tell us the truth, when their buddy's sitting right there watching them. I'm
Fair
watching
enough.
you.
Yeah. No, I think that's the one thing I love about like a lot of the international teams have like those YouTube videos like what's happening in camp this week, and you kind of see like the friendships. Like I mean, we saw with the Lions, like Bielem and Genge, for example, being like the best of friends. Like it's nice to be like, oh, okay, this is it. I would have never seen this guy and this guy coming together and being best mates. So that'll be interesting to monitor.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Bring it on.
Well, on that wholesome note, because a lot of stuff wasn't wholesome during the course of the game, but we can end it there. So that is our review of the Springboks versus Ireland game. We'll probably come back later. We'll definitely come back later in the week to look at the other games that have happened this week. We'll also look and probably preview the Springbok versus Wales game once we know which 23 South Africans are still in Cardiff on Saturday. And we will then, yeah, you must please follow us on our social media channels. Please listen to this podcast or watch this podcast either on Spotify and YouTube. And we will see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.